In our society today, the passing of modern myths can be seen in anything from television, movies, to comic books. Whether it's a reimagining of a TV show from the 90s, or a reboot to a classic action film from the 80s, or the constant updates to characters from the likes of DC and Marvel Comics. This, however, is nothing new. Playwrights and poets have updated and rebooted popular characters throughout history. Sure, the medium has changed as time has gone on, but the idea of taking a character and changing his attitude or origins is as old as sitting around a campfire, telling stories under the stars. The character of Robin Hood is one that has stood the test of time. Depicted within books, awful video games, comics, and movies, portrayed by the likes of Kevin Costner, Cary Elwes, Russell Crowe, or Taron Egerton, we could sit here all day and argue over which is the best portrayal, which would be silly because the obvious answer would be Cary Elwes. The heroic outlaw has been around literally for hundreds of years and even become an archetype for many characters. But most people can at least agree that they've heard of the hero, if not every aspect of his story. You see, he first appeared in poems in the late 13th century. Robin Hood was an outlaw that fought against the ruling class, aiding the poor around him. He was an exiled nobleman by some accounts, or was he? Throughout time, the character of Robin Hood has been many things to many people, with many believing that he was a real person at some point in time. So, why don't we take a few minutes to discuss the myth that surrounds the facts of who Robin Hood might have been. Also, I think we can all agree that while he was never a fox in a tunic, that was my favorite version of him. So anyway, let's go over the most popular version of the character. Robin of Locksley returns from the Crusades to discover that he has been presumed dead. His lands have been seized for taxes by Prince John and the evil Sheriff of Nottingham, who has been oppressing the people ever since the rightful ruler, Richard the Lionheart, has left for war. To fight against John and the Sheriff, Robin adopts the title Robin Hood, gathering a band of merry men that include Little John, Will Scarlet, and Friar Tuck. And they all live in the Sherwood Forest, from which they also launch their raids. Along the way, Robin falls in love with Maid Marian. The two eventually marry, and everyone lives happily ever after. Alright, now that that is out of the way, let's look at the reality. The first references to the character of Robin Hood appear in the Rhymes of Robin Hood, a poem that was supposed to be dated sometime in the late 1300s. These early accounts had the character as much more of a religious character. He loved the Virgin Mary and was a gifted archer. Such friends as Little John and Will Scarlet, they also appeared in these early renditions, but there was no mention of a Friar Tuck or a Maid Marian. But the thieves did live in Sherwood Forest in Nottinghamshire. Now, many people believe that these tales are based upon a real person at that time, when in reality, the title of Robin Hood, or Robe Hood, was given to criminals during that time period. Looking at the historical records, this name might pop up from time to time, usually used for petty crimes. Some people believe that Robin Hood was never his actual name, much like any number of heroes that may have used an alias so that those close to them would not be harmed. It was said that Robin was a hero of the people, robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. This aspect of the character wasn't introduced until a ballad in the late 1400s. Early tales never show Robin giving his ill-gotten gains to the poor. The idea that Robin was an exiled nobleman who fought against Prince John while Richard was at war wasn't even introduced until the 1600s, showing that writers had long since reworked the character to fit the current times. Early poems had him as an enemy of Prince Edward. Other aspects of the tales, such as Friar Tuck and Maid Marian, they were also introduced around this time. There's no definitive account of an outlaw named Robin Hood operating in this time period, other than the petty theft that was mentioned before. However, the identity of Robin Hood has been attached to several people throughout history, such as the exploits of Robert and John Diville, who were rebels and outlaws during the mid-1200s, or the outlaw Roger Godberd, who fought against King Henry III, acting as an inspiration for this character. In reality, there are no exact historical records that point to the character of Robin Hood being an actual person who lived and breathed, not in such a way that is told in the stories now. The inspiration for the character could have come from any number of actual historical outlaws, with other aspects of the character being placed among the myths as time went on. If this man really did exist, it's most likely that he was a commoner who decided that he had enough of the oppression from the ruling class, and that was actually quite common during that time. Maybe he was a legendary archer. Maybe he did lead a band of men in the Sherwood Forest. Maybe he did fight for the common people of the land, but he may have also been a bloodthirsty murderer who didn't care for anyone but himself. In all honesty, the reality of the myths is not that important. While it is interesting to be able to look back into our own history and pinpoint a single person that these tales are based on, it's the lessons that the myth teaches us that is the important part. The Robin Hood myth is about a man who sees the wrong in the world and he sets out to right it in any way that he can. It's about helping others when you can. I hope you enjoyed our little video here, and let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Robin Hood character and his meaning in our society. And if you do want more videos like this, us tackling popular myths or pop culture and seeing what the real stuff behind it is, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know. We're currently structuring this channel and we need to know what you're looking for. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.